First time I heard heavy metal. I think like one of the local radio stations. Like the first time I heard Priest, like PLJ or something like that. When they used to do rock, they did like one of those weekends, and they had like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, and I heard Judas Priest.
For me, it was a very, very long time ago.
Yeah.
What song from Priest did you hear?
The first one I heard was "Living After Midnight," and you know, before that it was, you know, like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. I was brought up in a household with Led Zeppelin, and more rock oriented, not so much metal. But I remember the first time I heard the song Black Sabbath, I think I was like,
That's the first time
I was in junior high school and I just shit my pants. I was getting high at my friend's uncle's house. It was something like, you know, something like that, and they just, like, you know, the rain came down and everything. You just heard it. They just broke open with these chords, and I was like, what the hell is that?
I was 8 years old, so it was, let's see, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, man.
What was the first band, like, you know, that you were like a fan of? Like, you just followed them, you want to know what they did?
Kiss.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely Kiss.
As well.
Yeah.
I used to love Elton John, though, you know, before my metal days.
Goodbye, Looking for Us.
The days of the iron-on T-shirts. It's gonna be iron-on.
Is he too high? Because they look a little different. Is that his shirt?
Yeah, I got
Is that all right?
my dad brought home Kiss Alive when I was like 7 years old. That was it. You know, I was completely consumed by it, and then from there, you know, went into, I guess, like, you know, when I was old enough to start going to concerts and stuff, it was like, you know, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and when we were younger, we used to go to Lamar's every weekend, you know, and saw a million bands, like Overkill and Saxon.
I used to go to drink
see
most
Metallica, and Wasp. And, I guess at the time, you know, Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil was pretty, made a big impression on me. And what else? How many? We've seen so many bands.
First concert or second or third?
First was Kiss at the Garden in 1979 on the Dynasty tour.
T.T. Quick at Lemoore. I was about, I must have been 16 or maybe 14 years old, something like that. It's the first live rock band I saw. You know, they played all covers. They played AC/DC, and they played it great, and I was just blown away. You know, I snuck in and whatever, you know. They didn't really care how old you were.
First time I went to Lemoore, I went to go see Saxon. I was like a sophomore in high school or something like that. And was that like the new wave of British heavy metal? Like a lot of those bands.
I never liked Saxon.
I did.
I liked their artwork.
It was pretty medieval. And you know, like for me, you know, there really wasn't. I didn't really have access to a lot of what was going on as far as like metal and stuff like that.
He never had any money. I was the one that worked, so I used to like, come on, let's go out, you know, and we go and we spend my paycheck in 2 nights.
He was working, I was still in school.
Tell me about the New York scene.
What New York City?
I don't know. I must be completely ignorant to it because everything that's come out of New York, I've missed all of it. You know, I've seen saw a couple of bands.
There was a moment, you know, there was a moment in time.
Lamore's, you know.
Yeah, in like circa like 1990, you know, there was Biohazard, and there was Life of Agony and Type O, you know, and there was something going on then, I thought. You know, as far as like bands coming out of, well, Brooklyn. Yeah.
As far as like New York City and stuff, like a lot of the stuff that was going on, it was like
Hardcore crossover.
Yeah, the hardcore scene I totally missed. Bands like Agnostic Front and Cro-Mags and things like that, you know. But you know, you heard a lot about it, but you know, I wasn't going to see these for matinees and stuff. You know, Carnivore, you know, where we originated from, with Peter. They played a lot of the matinees.
Yeah, we played with those bands, though,
I
too.
remember bands like Circus of Power and stuff like that. They were around for a little while, and they kind of made a buzz. That was like late 90s or something, right? No, late 80s, early 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s, yeah.
And
when Type O broke out, we were like sort of at the tail. That was all like the tail end of that. You know, we played with the Cro-Mags. Remember that show we did in L.A. And you know, we went on tour with Biohazard and with the Exploited. You know, those were like the hardcore days for us. You know, because we were playing this hardcore.
I mean, it was
stuff.
like, you know, you'd hear about all this stuff, like, you know, I found out about all these bands that came out of New York like after they hit it, after they hit it big, and they're like, yeah, they're a New York band. I was, completely ignorant to a lot of it.
What about the industrial scene?
Never really paid attention to it.
I used to go out with Peter a lot. Peter was heavily into the industrial scene. We used to go out to Limelight a lot. I think it was Wednesday nights, industrial night, wherever. We used to hang out.
That was more just socializing than it was like actually checking out, like being part of a scene, so to speak.
What about black metal?
We had our moments, I
Well,
remember
what, you consider
Venom.
Slayer black metal?
Well, I think their roots came from it.
Yeah, I think black metal's based on Slayer,
Yeah,
yeah. Venom.
Celtic Frost, loved Celtic Frost. Morbid Tales is a great record, classic album. What else would be like black metal?
That's about it for me.
I mean, that was
Never
it.
really went
That's
further
as
than
far
that.
as it went in my record collection.
What about like Nine Inch Nails Ministry? Any recollection?
Oh, we toured with Nine
We
Inch
toured
Nails.
with
That
them,
was
yeah.
great.
That was like our first major tour. And I think Trent liked the band.
Trent like Typo.
He liked Typo, so he requested, I think he had like maybe, what was like 10 dates
There
or
was
something
10,
like that?
10 dates on the West Coast, and the band that was scheduled to open up broke up 3 days before the tour started. They just,
So we had 2 days to get from
Yeah,
Brooklyn
to
to
Seattle.
Seattle.
Like
We
3
drove
days
straight
in a
in a van.
minivan.
And
When we
seeing
got
them,
there, we got to the Moore Theater in Seattle, and when we got to the venue, Trent Reznor was up in the Trust Focus and Lights.
and then
Yeah.
experiencing them, man, live for the first day, they just tore
They
my head off.
created
They were
us.
great. They were a great band to watch. I mean, it was hard for us though. We got booed, we got shit thrown at us. We got, every night, man. It was probably the roughest show we've ever played. Opening slot.
Yeah, playing for them was pretty tough.
But it was great. He had a big party with freaks every night, We had
But
a
the
good
music
time.
was great.
Yeah.
Downward Spiral is a phenomenal record,
Yeah.
and it was a pretty hate machine.
We were replaced by Marilyn Manson. It was his first tour.
Yeah, after we did the first 10 dates, and then Marilyn Manson did the entire
You
tour.
get a
with
little
them.
interest in
Yeah,
Mm.
a little bit invested, right?
it. What about Ministry? Any thoughts on that?
Ministry was that Psalm 69 record, right? Jesus Built My Hot Rod and stuff. I found out about them, like, through MTV and stuff like that. From what I understand, before, like, those records, they were, like a dance band or something. Like, I've heard some of the earlier stuff, like, before, what was that other band that they had, that Al Jorgensen was a part of? They did, like, Sabbath cover of Supernaut. What's it called? Revolting Cocks? No. Is that it?
Well, I know we were supposed to tour with them, like,
A number
10
of
times, and it's bottomed out every time,
That record was good.
Didn't we play with them once, though, in Europe, in Austria?
No, we did it. That was Sisters of Mercy.
Sisters of Mercy, it was. All right.
What about something
I saw Ministry play on Lollapalooza in '92 at Jones Beach. That was pretty cool. Just remember them being really, really loud. Like to the point where it was like a lot of the stuff, like I couldn't like grab onto anything because it was just so loud and so like overwhelming. It was hard to understand. Like not too much comprehension. But the show looked great. Typo opened up for a bunch of guys. Typo was like, at one point they were like the house band for L'Amour. It was like, if a big national came through, Typo was opening up for them for a little while.
First tour we did
Like
was
Trouble.
Biohazard and Exploited, and it was a complete crash and burn. Ended in Kansas. Collapsed. Peter insisted on going home, and it was over because Exploited kept wrecking clubs, and dates kept getting canceled, you know what I mean? And we were losing money, and so that
Before
collapsed.
Typo opened up for what, Sabotage once?
We did Cro-Mags. We opened up for not Rob Zombie.
White Zombie.
White Zombie. I remember the first conversation we ever had to get a manager was at the old Ritz, and who was on stage? Pantera. It was Philip with his mohawk. And we played with a lot of bands, man. I can't remember. It's been like 14 years of bands,
Let's take a couple of situations. So here you are. You're at the old Ritz. Pantera's on stage.
I hit my head on the pipe, down in the basement. Do you remember down in the basement? Like twice. Yeah. That I remember. We had a conversation with someone to manage us. It didn't work out in the end. Yeah, we ended up with Ken Creedy from Le Mans, which at the time was a good move for us. And it was cool. It was kind of, I mean, you know, I would say I was like maybe 25. It's my first time out on the road. I was a kid in a candy store. It was a horrible tour, but I didn't care. It was like, you know, it was Vegas for me. You know, playing all these dives across America, getting spit at by all these punk rock kids every night, you know. My gear blowing up because I had to set it up every night, you know. It was a disaster, but I had a great time. I think we played maybe 60% of the shows we were supposed to play, or not even.
When,
Because the Exploiter Road was late. They were late, they got arrested, they, you know. There was one night where, you know, they had a water balloon fight in the hotel room, I remember. We got thrown out of the hotel room and they had to drive overnight and their driver didn't get any sleep. And I remember I was in their van with them. And this guy, they had fired, or the original driver of their van quit because they were stun gunning him while he was driving on the road. So they just picked up this drunk guy from the club to drive. You drive for us. That's how he drove. And they kept him up all night because he had no hotel room. They got thrown out of the hotel room. I remember we were driving towards St. Paul, and he kept nodding out. We're going over to the side, you know, the thing on his eye. So I had to smack him out of his sleep, and lo and behold, probably one of the most irresponsible people in the world, who's the only guy in the entire van with a license, me. So I remember I had to drive them in to Minneapolis. You know, every night was like, it was a new episode every night with those guys. You know, this is my first touring experience. And then it only got worse from there because then we went for our first European run, which there was, you know, bomb threats, you know, club windows being busted, the bus being attacked, you know, major, like the 6 o'clock news coming to interview us every night. We played one show out of, I think, 18. That was my first touring experience. That was Tybo.
The good old days.
Tybo broke out finally into the world. You know, we came back just like in total shame and ignominy. You know? And that was my first experience, but I had a great time. I drank right through it. You know.
now, what was the complete bill?
It was a typo negative and pungent stench. We ended up, and they lived up to their name. They were great guys and good friends of ours, you know, they were Austrians, man. And for the entire month and a half, they did not shower. But we had a great time together. It's weird how back then you can have a great time, but, you know, we had a bus with no heat in December, you know, in Europe, in Western Europe, and I mean, you were actually breathing steam in your bunk out of your nose, you know. And still managed to have a great time. You know, taking baths in the sink in the bar and. Yeah. It's some good memories, though. Yeah.
The struggling times, I think, are some of the best times.
If you're young when you're doing it,
Yeah, exactly.
you know. If you're young while you're
Going
doing
with
it.
reckless abandon. You have nothing to lose.
There's nothing to lose.
The only thing that's important is having a good time that night.
And then actually, he worked for the band originally, and
I
he
worked, yeah.
he drove. We had a show where we drove.
The-
This is stupidity.
the
We drove from New
Palladium
York
to the
to the Palladium in LA to play with the Cro-Max. You know, and this was
One
what?
show.
93 or 91,
91.
and he was one of the drivers. He was a terrible tech too. He sucked.
I was a good driver though.
Oh, you know, you only lasted about 6 hours before you started falling asleep.
No, I think the longest I went was like 13. It was like a
Then we
good
broke out. We broke down in Barstow,
show. Barstow, California. We
in the
broke
desert.
down.
Yeah,
Wheel bearings went and they
this is before he was in the band.
they like seized onto the knuckle onto the spindle and we're just stuck on on the highway.
For Halloween night, we were stuck
Right,
in
we
Barstow.
we were trying to get to LA for Halloween. We were trying to get there early to go to LA and hang out, like, you know, and have some fun. And the truck broke down and we got stuck in Barstow for 4 days.
And they were all,
Barstow,
they were all this blind,
there's like
of course.
15 people in Barstow. And then we
Then
had
Ken Creedy and Josh were having a beef jerky eating contest all the way across the country, and it stunk so bad in the van. I mean, you were actually heaving every time one of them farted.
They're like-
The windows opened up, and you opened up the side of the van, and everything was getting sucked out. And it stunk, man. You were like, oh. Then we all got sick. Everybody got the flu, man. I was never so sick in my life until I got caught a flu, like from the other side of the country.
And then we had, remember when we had you, me, and Sal had to ride in the back of the truck from Barstow to Los Angeles?
Yeah. I remember
In the
that.
back of a 24-foot truck with the door closed and everything. We're just sitting in there with the gear.
That was the time we went to Vegas
Yeah, we went.
with the hotel room. And we all got drunk, and we wake
Wait
up the
a
next
minute.
morning.
Wait, you jumping the gun. You're forgetting about the whole thing in L.A. When we stayed at the Sunset Beverly Hotel. Remember that sleazy hotel right next to Tower
Oh, it was
Records?
great. Yeah, the swimming pool, it looked like French onion soup. You walked in, and it was like these old transvestite hookers on lounge
And they just like open up your door and walk right into your room and hang out with you and stuff. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember, right on the corner of the payphone, my girlfriend broke up with me. And I was like, ah! My girlfriend always broke up with me as soon as I rolled into L.A., you know, all strung out.
We did it was like a little bit over 2 weeks to go do one show. On the way back, we stopped in Vegas, and then something else broke down. The headlight switch on
We
that.
went to see the con, you know.
The headlights broke on the van, the headlight switch. So like, oh, we got to stay overnight, and we're stuck in Vegas. So we stayed in Vegas overnight, and then that
Put a
hotel-
quarter in the slot and drink.
Yeah.
And we woke up the next one. We all got drunk. My manager was on the road with us then, too. And us three. It was me,
You,
and
me, and Sal.
We woke up in the
woke
hotel
up.
room.
Josh and
Vomit
Ken,
all
God.
over the carpet. Nobody knew how this happened.
The
And the
door is ripped
bathroom
off.
door
Is
was
ripped
off the hinges and leaning against the wall. And you walked into the bathroom,
And-
and there was shit splattered on the ceiling, all over the shower wall. The shower curtain was gone. It was like as if
It
somebody
was-
backed up like a truck with their pants.
And just like unloaded a cannon.
And Josh and Ken Creedy, again, the beef jerky guys,
Yeah.
they got another room already. They were already in another
So
room
we woke
sleeping.
up. We woke up and we're like,
What
what
happened?
happened in here? And where's Josh and Kenny? We were like, those guys, they split on us. Look what they did to the room. You know, this
I
and
think it was
that.
Ken Creedy. Nobody knows who it was till this
Yeah,
day.
nobody's fessed up to it.
Who busted the door down and shit all over the ceiling?
That was Ken.
I think it was Ken
that
Creedy.
had to be Ken. And then Sal woke up. And Sal was drunk as.
He put the vomit all over the floor.
He woke up. Look what I did. Remember? He threw up all over himself, all over the
Now,
floor.
shit
and
like that,
everything.
this is a sea of stuff like that, you know, in our past.
Then we went to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Drove to Atlanta to do one show like a couple of months later.
This is
Another
when he
free
was still
fall.
not in the band.
Yeah,
All
I
the
wasn't
stuff
in
is when he wasn't in the
This
band.
is all before I joined the band, when I was working for the band. Remember they came in with the garage, the garbage can filled
Yeah.
with beer? And nobody else in the band drank except for me and him. Before showtime, I was completely useless.
You remember the dressing room doors? They had the opening band's name, and on us, our doors said Yanks.
And that radio station got shut down?
Yeah. We shut the radio station down because we were loaded on the air. I think it was their last
Well, the show was to help save them.
save the radio station, and we came in like a bunch of drunken, belligerent, and, you know, cursing, and that's it. It was over for them. And then that was the night Peter took a quart of milk on stage, and of course I was loaded as usual, and he's
Playing his
all over the
bass
place, and I went to
with
do,
a
you know,
quart of
like
milk.
like a karate run across the stage. I was on my ass and slid in the milk right up to his feet. We got that on film. Get that one on film.
And then we stopped at Myrtle Beach on the
Who
way
the
back.
hell-
That was,
You know, sprays milk around on stage, only Peter. Who the hell drinks milk on stage?
that was the first year.
It was always like a tragic disaster, but, you know, we came out, we like worked it into the show, you know. It was part of us, you know. Wherever we went, it was just calamity and disaster. And whoever we opened up for, they shared in it, you know.
That was fun. Like, you know, Peter would come up with these. He is part stand-up comedian, and right, his bass was out of tune. Right, we opened it up for Motley Crue, and he said,
Yeah, it's like,
stops the show, and he announces, "My bass is out of tune. I'm going to give it back to my tech, and until I get a bass back that's in tune, I'm going to stand here and do absolutely nothing."
and that's what he did.
That's
Put
what
his
he did.
hands behind his back in front of, like, you know, whatever, 10,000 people, and
He just sat there,
tapping his foot.
just sat there and waited, and then they gave him back a bass, and we started the show again.
That was the night he just decided out of a whim to spray paint all of our instruments flat black. And this was in Texas,
Yeah, we were in like Houston
the
or
most
something
humid
like
place
that,
in the
San
world.
Antonio.
45 minutes before I go on. I go on stage, this is my guitar, the strings are off, and it's got wet, flat black spray paint all over. I'm like, what the hell's the matter with this guy? So
He spray painted my
I had to
cymbals.
restring my guitar.
like
guitar,
this.
tune it up, get out on stage, and finally I made it. You know, I was shitting my pants. I was like so overwhelmed. And you know, he hits his first note, and it's the worst note you've ever heard in your life. You know? Like, I'm gonna stand here and do absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, I got spray paint all over my pants, stuck to my arms. You know, the entire tour, lasted maybe another 4 or 5 weeks or whatever it was. The paint still didn't dry. Still didn't dry. Then he went after his drums.
Yeah.
Spray painted his cymbals. Like,
Dink.
we had to just get rid of all the spray paint on the tour. And,
Right, don't hide the booze. Hide the spray paint. A million stories like that.
See, that's exactly it. That's what it's about.
That's
It's running amok, man. And
that whole run on Bloody Kisses. That was every day.
18 months.
18 months on the road. You guys were a part of it too. You guys saw it. Sure, word was getting back to the office what was going on out there, especially when we were touring with Pantera.
Right.
That was the best.
Some of those nights were absolutely legendary. I was talking to Big Val, the security guard, last night, and he was telling me how when they went back on Ozfest, when Ozfest came through, the Thomas and Mack Center, which was the last show with Pantera when Type O opened up for them, and they had, we went out there with the huge toilet paper fight and stuff. Thomas and Mack
1,000 rolls.
banned Pantera from playing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got banned, and Val, Ozfest came through, and they were like, we don't want these guys here.
It was a disaster,
The
It was so much
Pantera-
toilet paper, their show broke down. Their show broke down.
They
They
didn't-
got
they
3
didn't
songs
get to
into
play a
their
song.
set. There was
That was
1,000
it.
roll toilet paper everywhere.